But first, as always, tablets in hand, I say gather my flock. It is time for an accounting sermon. Let's go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
New Zealand Rugby have announced a record operating loss from 2022, that's last year, of $47 million, and CEO Mark Robinson is as happy as the proverbial sandboy. Let me repeat that. New Zealand Rugby have lost $47 million in the last 12 months, and CEO Mark Robinson is celebrating. We are, he says, in a strong financial position. The challenges of recent years should not be underestimated, but the NZR board remain committed to investing in our game, unquote. Now, forgive me for being an unqualified business brain here, but so much of his statement yesterday, the reckoning, the reasoning, and the actual figures involved seem at best confusing and at worst contradictory. Last year, New Zealand Rugby announced its first profit since 2017. That was a respectable $5.5 million net gain from what is always described these days as difficult financial times. 2020 saw a $34 million loss, 2019 a $7.4 million loss, 2018 $1.9 million was lost. Stay with me here. The Lions Tour in 2017 was a complete bonus for New Zealand Rugby, resulting in a record profit of $33.4 million. Now, by my amateur calculations, that's a net loss since 2017 of $37.8 million before the most recent announcement. You add in that $47 million, and since 2017, the union has posted losses totaling more than $80 million. The last 5 years have cost New Zealand Rugby an average of $16 million a year, $80 million in total. If this was any other business, they'd be out of business. Well, wouldn't they? Wouldn't they? The doors would have shut, the receivers would have been called in, and the creditors would be nervously circling, wondering whether they'll be left in the lurch as they always are. But this is New Zealand Rugby, and the way they're talking, a $47 million loss is something to celebrate. So let's keep drinking from the Kool-Aid for a second and all relax in the knowledge that the game is in the best possible financial shape, the future looks bright, and the brains trust running our number one national sporting pastime, well, they're doing just the most brilliant job. In fact, the only disappointing thing about this most recent announcement is that the board didn't all vote themselves a huge, healthy cash bonus for such a superb job. Well done, losing $47 million. I have the most basic questions to ask, and I feel like an utter moron for asking them, and that clearly I have no understanding of what a balance sheet means, despite the fact that I got 99% for school cert, bookkeeping/accounting, nor the intellect to understand that a record multi-million-dollar loss is actually in business terms a sign of increasing financial security and strength, because to all sense and sensibility, it sounds like a total disaster. Let's roll through some of the figures that they've given us. Revenue for 2022 was a record $271 million, up from $189 million the previous year. Operating expenses, though, also set a record, being $277 million, so that's more than they earned, and that was up from $135 million in 2021. I mean, the income bit looks great. The expense side of the ledger, a little worrying. Surely it's a little worrying. How could it not be? An increase in expenditure of $142 million in a single year. Let me repeat that. New Zealand Rugby in 2022 spent $142 million more than they did in 2021. Holy hell, what on earth is all that money being spent on? It's almost $3 million a week and represents a more than 100% increase on the previous year. Why such an outrageous increase? What on earth are all of those expenses? All that money? Where's it going, you might ask? Well, they're very good questions.